My wife took everything and smiled after our divorce. 3 years later, she saw me at a gala and whispered, "Honey, do you remember me?" The day I signed my divorce papers, Victoria looked happier than she had looked on our wedding day. Her smile was bright. Her eyes were alive. She looked almost weightless, as if the judge had not just ended an 8-year marriage, but had opened a door to the future she had already been dreaming about without me. She practically skipped out of the courthouse. Before she even reached her car, she had her phone in her hand. Her thumbs were moving fast. She was already texting someone, already stepping into a life where I no longer belonged. I stood there in my wrinkled suit, the same tired suit I had worn to court-mandated mediation sessions for 6 months, and watched the woman I had loved for 8 years disappear from my life without a single backward glance. Victoria got the house. She got the car. She got most of our savings. I got a studio apartment above a laundromat, a half-empty bank account, and a wake-up call that would change the entire direction of my life. But 3 years later, when Victoria saw me at a charity gala downtown, her face changed in a way I will never forget. First, she looked confident. Then, she looked confused. Then, in about 5 seconds, she looked completely shattered. She grabbed my arm like she was drowning. Her perfectly manicured nails pressed into the sleeve of my expensive suit jacket, and she whispered words I never thought I would hear from her. "Honey, do you remember me?" My name is Cameron Foster, and this is the story of how losing everything taught me who I really was. 8 years before that night at the gala, I was working as a mid-level accountant at Harrison & Associates. I made a decent salary, about $65,000 a year. It was nothing spectacular, nothing that would impress people at cocktail parties, but it was steady, reliable, safe. That was what Victoria said she loved about me when we first met at her friend's barbecue. "You're so stable, Cameron," she told me, "so dependable." At the time, I thought those were compliments. Later, I realized they were also predictions. They were the exact reason she would eventually convince herself I was not enough. Victoria worked in marketing at a tech startup. She was always chasing the next big thing, the next promotion, the next level of success, the next room full of people who seemed more important than the room she was already in. She was beautiful, ambitious, magnetic, and I thought she was completely out of my league. When she agreed to marry me after 2 years of dating, I felt like I had won the lottery. I kept asking myself how a woman like Victoria had chosen a man like me. I should have asked myself a better question. I should have asked whether she had chosen me for who I was or for what she thought I could become. Our wedding was modest. We could not afford the destination ceremony Victoria wanted, so we compromised with a nice reception at a local venue. The food was good, the music was simple, and the guest list was mostly family, co-workers, and close friends. I remember thinking it was perfect because it was ours. I also remember watching Victoria during our honeymoon in Cancun, scrolling through Instagram while we sat on the balcony. She was looking at other couples' extravagant weddings, beach arches covered in flowers, European castles, designer dresses, fireworks over private estates. She had an expression on her face that I could not quite read. Disappointment, maybe, or regret. The first few years of our marriage were good. Not perfect, but good. We bought a small house in the suburbs. We adopted a rescue dog named Chester. We settled into what I thought was a comfortable life together. I would come home from work. Victoria would already be there, or she would be working late. We would have dinner, watch TV, and go to bed. Then, we would do it all again. That rhythm felt peaceful to me. It felt like adulthood. It felt like building something real, one ordinary day at a time. But somewhere around year 5, something shifted. Victoria started staying later at work. She joined a gym with classes at 6 a.m. and 8 p.m., which meant I barely saw her anymore. She developed new interests, new friends, new habits, and somehow none of them included me. At first, I told myself it was normal. People changed. Marriages went through seasons. Ambition was part of who she was, and I loved her, so I tried to support it. But support started feeling like distance. Then distance started feeling like rejection. "You never want to do anything exciting, Cameron," she would say whenever I suggested staying in instead of going to another networking event with people I barely knew. "I just thought we could have a quiet night, I would say. You always want quiet nights. You're content with mediocrity. That word stayed with me, mediocrity. I tried to change. I really did. I suggested weekend trips. I suggested new restaurants. I suggested activities outside our routine, things that felt unlike me but might make her happy. Nothing was ever quite right. The restaurants were not trendy enough. The trips were not exotic enough. The plans were not spontaneous enough. And after a while, I began to understand the truth she had been telling me without saying it directly. I was not enough. The divorce conversation happened on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were trash day and I had just taken the garbage out when Victoria asked me to sit with her at our kitchen table. She had that look on her face. It was the look of someone who had already made the decision and was only going through the formality of saying it out loud. Cameron, she said, I want a divorce. 5 words. That was all it took to dismantle 8 years of marriage. I sat across from her and tried to breathe normally. I looked at the kitchen we had painted together, the table we had picked out together, the little scratch Chester had left near the back door when he was still anxious in the new house. Everything around me looked the same, but suddenly none of it belonged to me anymore. Why, I asked, even though some part of me already knew the answer. Because I'm not happy, she said. Because we want different things. Because I deserve more than this. She gestured around our kitchen at the life we had built together as if it were a prison she needed to escape. Is there someone else? The question came out quieter than I meant it to. Victoria hesitated for just a moment. That's not relevant, she said. That was all the answer I needed. His name was Damian Reynolds. I found that out later. He was a consultant at our company. He drove a Tesla. He had an apartment in the expensive part of downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. In other words, he was everything I was not. The divorce process was brutal. Victoria wanted everything, and her lawyer made sure she got most of it. The house we had bought together, purchased largely with an inheritance from my grandmother. The car I had been making payments on for 3 years. Our savings account, which I had been the primary contributor to because Victoria liked to spend her money on clothes, travel, and experiences. You'll be fine, Cameron, her lawyer said during mediation. You're young, you're employed, you'll rebuild. What he did not say was that Victoria had already rebuilt. She had rebuilt with Damian, inside a life she had started constructing while she was still wearing my ring. The day we finalized everything, Victoria showed up to the courthouse looking like she was going to a celebration instead of the end of a marriage. She wore a white sundress. Her hair had clearly been professionally styled. She kept checking her phone with a smile I recognized. It was the same smile she used to give me during our first year together. When the judge declared us officially divorced, Victoria practically floated out of the courtroom. I stayed behind. Through the window, I watched her walk into the parking lot. I watched Damian meet her there. I watched him spin her around in a hug. I watched them kiss like characters in a romance movie. And I stood there for 20 minutes after they left, trying to figure out where everything had gone wrong. Trying to understand how I had become so invisible to the woman who once promised to love me forever. That night, I moved into a studio apartment above May's laundromat on Fletcher Street. The rent was $800 a month, and the place smelled like industrial detergent and broken dreams. I had a futon that doubled as my bed and my couch. I had a card table where I ate my meals. I had exactly 3 plates, 3 forks, and 3 glasses I had bought at the dollar store. My brother Lucas called me that first night. Cam, you okay? I stared up at the water-stained ceiling. Define okay, I said. Come stay with me and Jennifer, he said. We've got the spare room. I appreciate it, but I need to do this on my own. Do what on your own? Torture yourself in a crappy apartment? Figure out who I am without her. Lucas went quiet for a moment. You know who you are, Cam, he said. You're the same guy you've always been. Yeah, I said. And then I whispered the truth I had been avoiding. That's the problem. For the first month, I barely functioned. I went to work, I came home, I ate microwave dinners, I stared at the walls. Sometimes I turned the television on, but I could not remember what I watched. Sometimes I opened my phone, but there was no one I wanted to call, and nothing I wanted to see. My boss, Patricia Morrison, pulled me aside one day. "Cameron, you're not yourself lately," she said. "When's the last time you slept through the night?" I could not remember. "I'm fine, Patricia. Just going through some things." "The divorce," she said gently. "I know, and I'm sorry." I looked away because kindness felt more dangerous than criticism. Criticism I could survive. Kindness made me feel like I might fall apart. "But you can't keep showing up here looking like a ghost," she said. "Take a week. Sort yourself out. Your job will be here when you get back." That week became a turning point I did not see coming. I spent the first 2 days doing absolutely nothing. I existed inside that apartment. I ordered takeout. I let the laundry machines rumble under my floor until the whole room vibrated. I let myself feel sorry for the man I had become. But on day 3, something shifted. I woke up angry, not sad, not numb, not depressed, furious. I was furious at Victoria for making me feel worthless, furious at myself for believing her, furious at the years I had spent trying to be enough for someone who was never going to be satisfied. I walked into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. I did not recognize the man staring back. I had gained 30 pounds during the marriage. My hair was thinning. My skin looked gray. My eyes looked dead. "Who are you?" I asked my reflection. The answer came as clear as day. "Nobody I want to be." That afternoon, I joined the gym 2 blocks from my apartment. It was not some fancy place with juice bars and hot yoga. It was a real gym. Weights, heavy bags, iron, sweat. People who looked like they had been through hell and had decided to fight back. The guy at the front desk was built like a tank and had tattoos covering both arms. First time he asked, "Yeah. What are you training for?" I thought about Victoria's face in the courthouse. I thought about Damien's smug smile. I thought about every time someone had made me feel small, everything I said. His name was Marcus Blake, and he became my first real friend in my new life. Marcus showed me how to lift properly. He showed me how to push past pain without being stupid. He showed me how to use anger as fuel instead of letting it eat me alive. On day 5, he looked at me between sets and said, "You going through something?" It was not really a question. "Divorce," I said. He nodded. "Thought so. You've got that look." "What look?" "Like you're trying to bench press your whole life." I almost laughed. "Something like that." "Good," Marcus said. "Use it, but don't let it use you." So I used it. I trained 6 days a week. At first, I could barely do 20 push-ups. By month 2, I was doing 100. The weight started falling off. My body started changing. But more importantly, my mind started clearing. During my lunch breaks, instead of eating at my desk and pretending to be fine, I started reading. Not fiction, books about business, investing, personal development, money, discipline, decision-making. I had spent 8 years in accounting, but I had never really thought about money beyond paying bills and saving for a future that no longer existed. One book changed everything for me. The Compound Effect by Darren Hart. The concept was simple. Small, consistent actions over time create massive results. That idea hit me hard because I suddenly understood something about my own life. I had not collapsed all at once. I had disappeared one small compromise at a time. I had accepted less from myself one quiet day after another until I barely recognized the man in the mirror. If small choices had helped destroy me, small choices could also rebuild me. I had been living small, thinking small, being small. It was time to think bigger. I started listening to podcasts about entrepreneurship during my commute. I took online courses in financial planning and investment strategies. I reached out to former colleagues who had left accounting to start their own firms, and I asked them exactly how they had done it. 6 months after my divorce, I had a plan. Not a vague hope that things would get better, a real plan. I would save aggressively for 1 year while building a client base on the side. Then I would leave Harrison & Associates and start my own financial consulting firm. I would specialize in helping small business owners who did not have the budget for big corporate accounting firms, but still needed real financial guidance. When I told Patricia, she looked at me like I had lost my mind. "Cameron, you're throwing away a stable career for what?" she asked. The chance to maybe make it on your own. The chance to build something that's actually mine, I said. She studied my face for a long moment. You're different than you were 6 months ago, she said. Harder somehow. Not harder, I said. Just done being soft. The next year was the hardest year of my life. I worked my day job 40 hours a week. Then I spent another 30 to 40 hours building my business. At first, I had 5 clients. They were small operations that needed basic bookkeeping and tax help. Nothing glamorous, nothing that would make anyone jealous. But they trusted me. I charged reasonable rates and I over-delivered on every promise. Word spread. By month 9, I had 15 clients. By month 11, I had 23. I was exhausted. Most nights I ran on 4 hours of sleep. I lived on black coffee, protein bars, spreadsheets, and the kind of stubbornness that only comes after someone has already taken everything from you. But I had never felt more alive. I kept training too. The gym became my therapy, my meditation, my proof that transformation was not some motivational quote people posted online. It was real. It was measurable. It was painful. It was slow. And it was possible. I lost 45 pounds. I built muscle I did not know I could build. I had energy for the first time in years. I carried myself differently. I spoke differently. I looked people in the eye and did not immediately wonder whether they were disappointed in me. When I finally left Harrison & Associates to run Foster Financial Consulting full-time, Patricia shook my hand. "I'm proud of you, Cameron," she said. "You proved me wrong. You gave me the week off that started all this," I reminded her. "So technically, you helped prove yourself wrong." She laughed. "Maybe I did." Year 2 of my new life was about refinement. I hired an assistant, Jennifer Martinez, who was better organized than I would ever be. I moved my office out of my apartment and into a small suite downtown. I invested in better software, better systems, better processes, better everything. My client base grew to 50, then 75, then 100. I was making more money than I ever had at Harrison & Associates, but that was not the most important part. The most important part was that I was building something meaningful. My clients were not just numbers on a spreadsheet, they were people with dreams, families, businesses, debts, fears, and futures they were trying to protect. I helped a restaurant owner restructure his debt and avoid bankruptcy. I helped a single mother launch her online boutique with a financial plan that actually worked. I helped a retired teacher invest his pension so he could leave something behind for his grandkids. The work mattered, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I mattered too. I also started dating again, though nothing serious. A few dinners here and there, a couple of short relationships that fizzled out, naturally. I was not looking for anything permanent. I was too busy building my life to worry about sharing it with someone else. But the biggest change was internal. For years, I had defined myself by Victoria's standards. I measured my worth by her approval. If she was impressed, I felt valuable. If she was disappointed, I felt small. Now I was defining myself by my own standards. I measured my worth by my own growth. I bought a condo in a nice part of town. It was not as flashy as the house I had lost, but it was modern, clean, and completely mine. I bought a car I actually wanted, not just something practical and boring. I started dressing better, not to impress anyone, but because I liked how I felt in clothes that fit properly. Lucas noticed the change when I showed up at his house for Christmas. "Hey, Zeuscam," he said, "you look like a completely different person." "I am a completely different person," I said. "Victoria, seen you lately?" "No idea. I don't keep tabs on her." That was true. I had blocked her on everything. I had not thought about her in months, not because I was forcing myself not to, but because I was too busy living to waste time wondering what my ex-wife was doing. Jennifer, my assistant, was the one who mentioned her one day. She walked into my office with a stack of files and said, "I saw Victoria's engagement photos on social media." I looked up from my laptop. To Damien, I asked, not because I cared, but because I was curious whether the upgrade had worked out. "Yeah," Jennifer said. "Looks like they're getting married next spring. Fancy wedding in Napa Valley, according to the posts." "Good for them." Jennifer studied my face. "You really don't care, do you?" "Not even a little bit," I said. "That's a whole different life, a whole different version of me who doesn't exist anymore. Which brings me to the gala. The Metropolitan Children's Hospital Charity Gala, to be exact. One of my clients sat on the board and invited me because he thought it would be good networking. I almost did not go. Black tie events were not really my scene, but something made me say yes. I wore a custom-tailored tuxedo I had bought for another event. I got a fresh haircut. I showed up feeling confident, calm, and completely in control of myself. The venue was the Grand Belmore Hotel. Marble columns, crystal chandeliers, polished floors. Waiters moving through the crowd with champagne trays. People who looked like they had stepped straight out of a magazine. I was talking to a potential client about his expanding restaurant chain when I felt someone staring at me. You know that feeling? The one where the room keeps moving, but suddenly your body knows somebody's eyes are locked on you. I turned around, and there she was, Victoria. She was standing about 20 feet away, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips, staring at me like she had seen a ghost. She wore an expensive-looking black dress. Her hair was shorter than it used to be. She looked older somehow, not in a bad way, just different, like time had touched her too, even if she had tried to outrun it. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she started walking toward me. Her expression shifted from shock to confusion to something I could not quite identify. "Cameron," she said when she reached me. Her voice was uncertain. "Hello, Victoria." She looked me up and down, taking in the tailored tuxedo, the confident posture, the 45 pounds of missing weight, and the muscle that had replaced it. "I almost didn't recognize you," she said. "You look so different." 3 years will do that." "You look amazing," she said quickly. "I mean, you look really good. What have you been doing?" "Living," I said. She laughed nervously. "I mean, what are you doing here? This is a pretty high-end event." "I'm here with a client," I said. "You." Damien sits on the hospital board. We're engaged. She held up her left hand, showing me a diamond that probably cost more than my first car. "Congratulations," I said. "Thanks." But she was still staring at me like she could not quite believe what she was seeing. "Cameron, I have to say, you're like a completely different person. The weight loss, the confidence, the everything. It's incredible." Divorce was good for me. The words came out harsher than I intended. Victoria did not flinch. Instead, she laughed again, that same nervous laugh. "I can see that," she said. "You're not the same man I left." "No," I said. "I'm not." A tall, silver-haired man approached us then and placed his hand possessively on Victoria's lower back. Damien Reynolds in the flesh. He looked exactly like the photos I had seen before I blocked everything. Successful, polished, confident. The kind of man who never entered a room wondering whether he belonged there. "Honey, who's your friend?" he asked Victoria. But his eyes were on me, sizing me up. "This is Cameron," Victoria said. "My ex-husband." The way she said it made me sound like a relic from ancient history, instead of a man she had been married to 3 years earlier. Damien's expression changed slightly. "Cameron Foster," he said. "The accountant, financial consultant now," I corrected. "I run my own firm." "Foster Financial Consulting," Damien said, and recognition dawned across his face. "I've heard of you. You helped the Matsumoto restaurant chain restructure their expansion strategy. Very impressive work." "Thank you," I said. Victoria looked between us, confused. "You've heard of Cameron?" "Of course," Damien said. "His firm is developing quite a reputation in the small business sector. Very smart approach focusing on underserved markets." Damien extended his hand. "I'm Damien Reynolds, Meridian Consulting Group." I shook his hand firmly. "I know who you are." For a moment, the three of us stood there in an awkward triangle. Victoria looked uncomfortable in a way I had never seen from her before. She kept fidgeting with her engagement ring. She kept glancing at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle that had rewritten itself in front of her. Finally, she said, "Cameron, could I talk to you for a minute, privately?" Damien frowned. "Victoria, we're supposed to—" "Just a minute, honey," she said. "I'll be right back." She pulled me toward a quieter corner of the ballroom, away from the crowd, the music, and the champagne laughter. When we stopped, she turned to face me. Her expression was soft now. Too soft. dangerous in a way I had once been too weak to resist. "Honey," she said quietly. The word hit me like a punch. "Do you remember me?" I stared at her. "What kind of question is that?" "I mean," she swallowed. "Do you remember us, the way we were? Because looking at you now, it's like you're a completely different person. Like the Cameron I knew doesn't exist anymore." "He doesn't," I said. "That Cameron died in his studio apartment above a laundromat. This Cameron built himself from scratch." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake." Those 4 words hung in the air between us. For years, I had imagined hearing something like that. In the worst days above the laundromat, when I was eating microwave dinners and staring at the ceiling, I thought those words would give me peace. I thought they would feel like justice. But in that ballroom, under those chandeliers, with my old life standing in front of me and asking to be remembered, I felt strangely still. "Victoria," I said. "No, listen," she said. "I made a terrible mistake. I thought I wanted all of this." She gestured around the gala at the wealth, the status, the prestige, the life she had once chosen over me. "But seeing you now, seeing what you've become, I realize I gave up the only real thing I ever had." I waited for anger. It did not come. I waited for satisfaction. It did not come either. All I felt was a profound sense of being exactly where I was supposed to be. "You didn't give me up, Victoria," I said. "You gave up a version of me that was never going to make you happy. And you were right to do it. But look at you now," she said. "You're successful, confident. You're exactly the kind of man I'm exactly the kind of man I needed to become for myself," I said gently. "Not for you. Not for anyone else. For me." She reached out and touched my arm. Her hand trembled slightly. "Cameron, I still have feelings for you. I think I always will." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. "Victoria, you're engaged to Damien. You're planning a wedding in Napa Valley. You're living the life you wanted." "I thought I wanted this," she said. "But seeing you tonight, I realized I wanted you. The you that you are now. The me that I am now exists because you left," I said quietly. "You did us both a favor. You found what you were looking for, and I found who I was supposed to be. That's not a mistake. That's just life." Victoria was crying now. Mascara had started to run down her cheeks. "So that's it?" she asked. "We just pretend we never meant anything to each other?" "We meant everything to each other at the time," I said. "But that time is over. You need to let it go." "How can you be so calm about this?" she asked. "Don't you feel anything?" I thought about the question. Did I feel anything? Anger? No. Sadness? No. Regret? Absolutely not. "I feel grateful," I said finally. "Grateful." "Yes, grateful that you had the courage to end something that wasn't working. Grateful that you forced me to rebuild myself. Grateful that I got to discover who I really am." "Cameron, go back to Damien Victoria," I said. "He's a good man and he clearly loves you. Build a life with him. Be happy. But don't look back at what we had and think you made a mistake. You made the right choice for both of us." Then I walked away before she could respond. I left her standing alone in that corner of the ballroom, and I did not look back. The next day, Jennifer came into my office with a strange expression on her face. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Try me. Victoria Reynolds called. She wants to set up a meeting to discuss potential consulting services for her and her fiancé." I laughed. "Tell her we're not taking new clients right now." Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "Completely sure," I said. "Some doors close for a reason, Jennifer. Best to keep them closed." That was 6 months ago. I heard through the grapevine that Victoria and Damien got married as planned. They honeymooned in Bali. They bought a house in the suburbs that probably cost more than I will make in 5 years. Good for them. I mean that sincerely. As for me, Foster Financial Consulting just landed its biggest client yet, a regional hospital chain that needs complete financial restructuring. It is the kind of contract that will triple my revenue and require me to hire 5 new consultants. I bought a house last month, 3 bedrooms, a home office, a yard for the dog I am thinking about adopting. Nothing extravagant, but it is mine. I am dating someone new, too. Her name is Samantha. She is a teacher. She makes decent money, but nothing spectacular, and she does not care about status or prestige. She likes me for who I am, not for what I can give her. When she asks about my day, she actually listens to the answer. When I talk about my clients, she hears the meaning behind the work, not just the numbers behind the income. Last week, Lucas and I were having beers at his place when he brought up Victoria. "You ever think about her?" he asked. "Sometimes," I admitted. Not in a sad way, more like remembering a book I read once. It was interesting while it lasted, but I've moved on to better stories. Lucas nodded. "That's healthy. Took me a while to get here. You think she regrets leaving?" I thought about Victoria's face at the gala. I thought about the way she had looked at me like I was something she had lost. "Probably," I said. "But regret is just the price you pay for the choices you make. We all pay it eventually." Lucas leaned back with his beer. "You ever regret anything about how it all went down?" I considered the question carefully. Did I regret the 8 years with Victoria, the divorce, the studio apartment above the laundromat, the year of brutal 80-hour work weeks, the loneliness, the anger, the nights when I had to become my own reason to keep going? Not for a second, I said finally. Every single thing that happened to me made me who I am today, and I'm exactly who I was supposed to become. Looking back now, I realize Victoria did me the greatest favor of my life. She showed me that being comfortable is not the same as being happy. She showed me that stability without growth is just another word for stagnation. She showed me that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what you are really made of. The day she walked out of that courthouse glowing with happiness about her new future, I was devastated. I thought I had lost my home, my marriage, my savings, my identity, and the future I had spent years trying to protect. But that devastation became fuel, and that fuel became discipline, and that discipline became transformation. So thank you, Victoria. Thank you for leaving. Thank you for forcing me to rebuild from scratch. Thank you for showing me that the man I was did not have to be the man I stayed. And when we ran into each other at that gala, when your face fell and you asked if I remembered you, maybe my answer should have been different. Yes, I remember you. You are the woman who broke me so completely that I had no choice but to build myself into something stronger. You are the reason I lost the house, the car, and the savings. You are also the reason I learned how to build something no one else could take. You were the catalyst for the best decision I never made. And for that, I will always be grateful. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is watching your old life fall apart. It hurts. It humiliates you. It makes you question every choice you ever made. But when the dust settles, when the people who left stop looking back, when the rooms get quiet and there is no one left to save you, you finally discover what was buried underneath the life you were trying so hard to keep. You discover your anger, then your strength, then your discipline, then your purpose. And if you are willing to do the work, one small choice at a time, one painful day at a time, you do not just survive what broke you, you become someone the old version of you would not even recognize. That is what happened to me. Victoria walked away with the house, the car, and most of our savings. But she left me with something far more valuable. She left me with no choice but to become myself.